Welcome to the Deconstructed Show, episode 1. We're here, man. Guys, if you've been following us for a while, 400, 500 of you, we appreciate you. If you haven't, welcome.
That is true.
But this is the Deconstructed Show, where we deconstruct from religions to cults, all the way to big businesses, any system that has grown to power and why it is that way. Anything to add?
We're going to deconstruct everything. Yeah, I'm ready to get in episode 1, man.
We're starting off high, guys. Jonestown, Jim Jones, one of the most interesting and terrifying cults, I think, in human history. Lots of deaths, lots of abuse, craziness. But here, Deconstructed, we want to start off with the life and story of Jim Jones, who is the cult leader himself. So you guys stay with us. It is an insane story. One of the most insane cult stories out there, truly. So, dude, let's start with Jim Jones himself. Old Jim.
Jim Jones.
Jimmy.
He went by Jimmy, which is my name.
Jimmy went
It's
by
kind
Jimmy.
of crazy when I was reading about it, and they were like, "Yeah, well, Jimmy was." I was like, "Oh shoot."
Well, Jimmy, man.
Yeah.
He was born to a World War I veteran, and a mother who did odd jobs. The reason why we're starting here is to paint you guys a picture of what this kid grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of craziness to it. He had a tough childhood. His dad, actually, you had it written down. His dad was injured in World War I. Why?
Yeah, mustard gas. So he was inhaling mustard gas. He came back from World War I, and basically was on disability, and he was not available very much. And just as you said with his mom, she wasn't available. They said she was kind of like I think the exact adjective was she was not happy person. She didn't smile often. She was strong though, but I think she probably had some abuse and stuff towards Jim Jones. It definitely he faced some emotional abuse, but I think he was very neglected and kind of like unwanted, unloved as a child. Felt like he didn't have a place fit in. Felt like he never fit in anywhere in terms of he didn't have acceptance and was in a lower income community, so he was in like poverty. And he kind of felt like an outcast, I think. So I don't know.
Dude, that's spot on. No, that's spot on. And it's good analysis to know this because it shaped his worldview. So he grew up extremely poor in poverty. His dad was always sick. His mom was just, what I've read is she had no maternal instincts.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to take care of the guy.
Yeah.
So this kid's growing up.
He's not getting like a leader in his father, like a strong leader in his father at all. He's not getting any nurturing from his mother. So he's kind of neglected in the way he needs a father and the way he needs a mother in a lot of ways.
And it got so bad that they ended up living in a shack, and their relatives and other extended family were worried about him. But they worried about him only because it's almost like out of an ignorance of this family. Like,
Yeah.
they're living in a shack.
Yeah.
What are y'all doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and for a young Jim, what he saw, he did not take the mentality of, I'm going to make my way out of this. He took a victim mentality.
Yeah, and it made him kind of bitter.
Dude.
Made him kind of bitter.
Yeah.
But he grew up in a church where he did go to church. He was like a church goer. And he I think he would idolize the pastors because the pastors would preach to people and they would hold a large audience captive, and they're clapping, and although the people in the audience may be clapping for God, he took it as like they're clapping for him and they're accepting him. And so I think as a child, he's probably watching that like, that's what I want to do, that job. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. Right?
I want to be seen.
Yes. And he had the tangible gifts to be a pastor and lead, right? And so there's actually, I don't know if you know about this, but one of the girls that he was involved with when he was in high school. This is hilarious because this is something me and you would have done in high school, but this is what they did. They're on a homecoming. They were playing another school, and he literally set up, because I'm telling you, he had the gifts to be like a speaker and a pastor, right? In terms of the tangible gifts, right? And he set up a hypothetical fake funeral for the other school and was preaching. And they were like, he was preaching with conviction. He wasn't laughing. They were like, he was built for that. Like, he literally had the whole school sitting, and he was preaching this funeral, like, we're going to kill him in this basketball game. And, just going in. And they're like, you could feel And like the thing about it was he was joking. The whole thing was a joke. But he did it like it was serious, which made it more funny, I'm sure. But like really, they didn't know it's because he's actually a maniac.
Whew.
He's actually a maniac.
So he was a troll, but part of him was kind of serious.
Well, I think if anything, that should give you like an insight of like what he was capable of. He's capable of preaching with something that would make everybody in the audience feel the conviction of it, even though he doesn't mean
it. Dang.
Yeah.
In us versus them mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Dude. So, man, actually, that's a great point. And so throughout his upbringing, especially as he got into high school, what he looked at was his family and himself, and he said, the government's not helping us. This capitalistic society sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at what it's turning me into. And Jim was a very expressive, creative young man, an expressive, creative child, especially. You know how little kids, they just have big imaginations.
Yeah.
Well, his was times 10.
Yeah.
He thought he could fly, which apparently hurt his arm trying to attempt. So he believed he could do some of this stuff. And to your point about funerals, he would host funeral. He would go find roadkill, and in fact, he even killed an animal, and would host funerals and would invite his friends, and no one would show up, and he would still do it.
Oh my gosh!
So it was in intense. This is to your point about the high school stuff. He had an intense gift of pleasing crowds, drawing in crowds, but he felt like no one cared, and so he felt a real sense of true loneliness. His parents didn't care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of like this kid, like, bro, if he got directed in the right ways, you got to wonder.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, it's like kind of like how much is like your environment, like nurture and environment, how much of that is, or like, I don't know. It makes you kind of question a lot on whether like he was just how anybody is shaped. Is it all their environment on how they're shaped and how they're nurtured, or is it, instincts and just who they are?
Dang.
But it's interesting because he didn't want to be a pastor, after he graduated from, what school was it?
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, he went somewhere like to a prestigious school. I'm forgetting the name, but
that's right.
He went to a pretty prestigious school and graduated, decided he wanted to be a pastor. But like when he was going to churches and stuff, they said he kind of went to all the denominations of the churches, but he really found his home at the Pentecostal church because they're kind of the outcasts of the Christian church to a degree. Pentecostals, the outcasts. They're the ones that, if you don't know anything about church denominations, they get the reputation for like speaking in crazy tongues and like bringing the snakes out and stuff like that, which I'm sure doesn't happen in every Pentecostal church or most of them, but that has only happened at the Pentecostal churches. And so he'd go to places like that. And so he had a lot of like the Pentecostal upbringing involved in him where they do heal people and, a lot of that stuff. And so he genuinely did think that he could heal people and, have prophetic powers and different things of that nature. So he was a self-proclaimed, he could read people's minds and he was a healer and he could do all these supernatural things. And that kind of stuck with him too in his early, when he was preaching.
Do you think, this question for both of us, do you think if you grew up in a different environment, say you grew up in an extremely broken household, poverty, no one ever paid attention to you, no one told you were good at anything, do you think you'd be a different person right now? I think I definitely would.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to like be knowledgeable of understanding that a lot of who you are is how you're raised. And one of the best way to honestly like some of the best ways you see that is from adopted kids. Because if they were in a completely different household, they'd be raised in a completely different culture.
Yeah.
And then they would be completely different. Like that would completely change who they are as people. Yeah. Individuals.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to understand that like the culture that you're raised in, the family household that you're around, that does shape a lot of who you are.
Yeah.
You have tangible talents and stuff that you're born with and tangible strengths and tangible like weaknesses that you can utilize and do different things with, but like your culture and environment is still going to shape you on how you use them. I feel like.
And yeah, and his guiding light was the church, was those pastors who were giving him like a sense of hope that he just couldn't find anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, it's crazy.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
People.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So it gets worse. Like I said, he grew up feeling like a victim. And this is where it really takes off. you combine the Pentecostal, the Latter Rain movement in the 40s with he started studying socialism. This is where it gets crazy right here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this conversation is going to be centered around what utopia is, capitalism versus socialism. That's really the basis of his platform.
Yeah.
He started studying Hitler, Stalin, Mao, who killed 25 million people in China, was like his role model.
Yeah.
So he got into just this mindset that socialism was the way, combined with religion, specifically Pentecostal. It was just this perfect combination to him of, oh, there is a perfect society out there. Capitalism is suppressing what we know of it, basically.
I would argue that he was so egocentric and so ego driven that he learned that one of the best ways to control people also is socialism. And so that's why I think he was very impressionable, but he's also very smart. So he watched out other people. And I was telling you about the Father Divine is what they called him.
Tell him.
His name is George Baker. He basically endorsed Jim Jones when he was a pastor, and he was big socialist, and he would see himself in his congregation, saw him as like a god, like a messiah. And Jim Jones, I think he saw a lot of what he did and then followed and actually perfected kind of what he wanted to be in a lot of ways. But I think a lot of it was really egocentric driven, to where it wasn't like he really believed in socialism as much. I think deep down it was like he really wanted the end result, which we'll get to, where he had complete power over people.
Dude, that's a good perspective on that.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
He saw, he was the ultimate manipulator.
Well, I think the thing you have to ask yourself is, did it start as good intentions or was it always bad? And that's where you have to get into. I think it always started as an egocentric sinner.
Yeah.
So it was always egocentric. However, there probably was there had to be some good intentions in there at some point. He was mentally ill, but I think there had to be maybe a start of some good intentions. But maybe if he was in a poor family, socialism sounds great, but to a degree, he was still always at the center. And so it was always going to come back to him being in power.
Dang, yeah.
So it's tough to say, because as you get older, you realize, is everything really black and white, or is there a lot of gray area? And a lot of things are gray area. So he may not be there may have been some quality. I mean, there had to have been some qualities in him from the outside looking in that were good, because so many people were flocking to him. He was feeding the homeless. He at a time where segregation was the thing, he had a completely multicultural church of everybody beside each other, and that was a beautiful thing at the time
in the 60s.
Yeah, because that was unheard of, to have that. So that's a beautiful thing that he's outside looking in. He's doing a wonderful thing. He's feeding homeless people. He's feeding people. He's giving people that are rejects in society a home, a place to come and be accepted and have community. So that's what drew a lot of people.
He was literally the oppressed and the outcast of society.
Yeah. And so essentially what he did was bring them in so much to where it may have started like they were coming to a church, but then they ended up seeing him as the God type thing.
Cool, dude.
And eventually it morphed into that. Because he was, in a way, saving them from, he was giving them food, he was giving them acceptance, he was giving them this utopia.
Dang, dude. In the 60s, he took his talents to California. And then California back then, that was kind of heaven on earth. That is the premier place you want to be. And so, like you're saying, with that move, he brought a new idea, which at the time, what he preached was capitalism and Christianity is the white man's way to suppress, ironically, every one of society, specifically minorities, disabled people, people who are addicts, young, impressionable college kids. He had them all and said, screw them, screw the white Republican way, follow me.
Yeah.
Which is ironic.
Yeah. Very ironic.
Very ironic.
For a lot of reasons. What reasons are you saying it's ironic?
I mean, because it's don't listen to that white guy.
Yeah, listen to this white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, just a sidebar, anybody that says that Christianity is the white man's religion obviously doesn't know the history of Christianity at all. because it wasn't until way later that the white people even adopted Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like hundreds, right?
It first went to Ethiopia. If you actually know the roots of Christianity, it was traveled to Ethiopia way before white people got a hold of it.
Which we'll be going over that probably. We'll go over a whole thing of Christianity eventually.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, so just like you said, so he does that. He takes that, and he also. But the thing about it was, he wanted to have this perception of his church that it was so multicultural. They were accepting. They had Korean people. They had Black people, white people, Native American people. So he adopted Korean children, Native American children. He was the first person, the white person, to adopt a Black child in Indiana.
That's crazy.
First person in history.
That's crazy.
The first one. And so he wanted outside looking in to have that family and people be like, wow, he can't be a bad guy, right? Dude. I mean, look at his family. He can't be a bad guy. Look at him.
How could he be, right?
Yeah, he really cares for people. And the thing about it was, it's so crazy because he did all that. And the thing is, I think he convinced himself in his head he was so good because he did that. Even his Black son said that he never called him his actual son. He would always remind him he was his Black adopted son. Like he did something so good. Like he's my Black adopted son.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it's like in his head, I think he did that all like, look how good I am. I have a Black son. I have a Native American son. And he's like low key forming this idea of himself to where he's putting himself as God. Like, I'm so good.
Dang.
I'm so good.
So before we even get into the California piece, what do you think drives a person to be so egocentric like that? To where you convince yourself that you are God? Isn't that crazy, bro? Like,
I don't know. I don't know if you can really put your finger on it. Also, I think that in a lot of ways, we all have tendencies like that we don't want to admit. Whether we want to admit it or not, I think we naturally have tendencies where we want to be God, and we put ourselves in different situations to make it seem like we are God in a lot of situations.
Dang, that's a good point.
That is essentially what selfishness is, right? In any point in life when you're selfish, you are essentially putting yourself above someone else. Like, I'm better than you, and that is what's better than a human. I mean, you're putting yourself better. You're saying that it's all about me type thing.
This is where I believe the nurture versus nature thing actually goes out the window. I think some people are wired that way. I'm just gonna say it.
You think they're just he's just wired to be like that?
I think some people, bro, are just wired in a very twisted, manipulative way. I'll just say it. Hitler was one of them. Hitler is the prime example to me.
Like, they're just mentally like Hitler or Jim Jones or somebody like that, where they just...
I think yes. I think the only way to stop it is if they are in such an environment to where they don't have the opportunity. Does that make sense?
No.
So, like...
They don't have the opportunity to... of power.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
But if you give them any glimpse, it's going to... And look, guys, I'm not saying this like judgmentally. In all seriousness, we all have this tendency, but I think for some people, it's heightened.
When you give them that sense of power, they're running with it. They're a million miles an hour. Tyreek Hill. Just cheetah fast, yeah.
They're running with it. And again, that's not a knock on them. It's just, it's how they are, man. Dude, this is human nature. So Jim Jones takes his talents to California. There's an estimated about 20,000 people in rotation, like in total, of who like he had in his assembly.
Yeah.
They said if you walked into his church, it would feel like nothing you've ever experienced up to that point. A lot of Black culture, he really implemented that.
Mm-hmm.
But he said you would walk in and look around, and it would be all types of minorities.
Be captivating.
Dude, actually, yeah.
Be captivating when you walk in.
Yeah.
If you're wondering how he convinced so many people to do, if you know the end of the story, what he made them do, then that's how he did it. Because like it was actually captivating what he was doing. Like they didn't see him like that. How we see Jim Jones now, how we know of that name, they didn't see him like that. They saw him as somebody that was bringing them hope.
Dang.
And life and change. Which is it's crazy.
Yeah.
So he was a good speaker. You know what I mean? Like captivating. One of the and then also on top of this too, it's like he did a lot of good things too. He really, he was a white man that was leading the way in civil rights. Like he was a big part of he was a big advocator for integration. He's talking negatively about the racism systemic racism at the time that was going on, and like all the things he was seeing around. Like that's all good. That's all good stuff. So you're wondering how he capped it. Some people see some good stuff, and then they get like tunnel vision on the good stuff, and then they neglect everything else around them. But then they just get focused on what they want to hear with that one little piece of it. They're like, well, no, he can't be bad because of this. Yeah, he can still be bad.
He utilized what was going on in the world, especially the United States at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so he established, man, once he got really established in California, what began to happen was he became an avid drug user.
You think that just started then, or you don't think he was using before?
Oh, I think he was using before. You know,
and that's about the same time he started putting on the shades.
He started putting on the shades.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd be up there preaching on like a Sunday at like 9
Yeah, literally like 9 in the morning with shades on, hair slicked all the way back. And so, a lot of people don't realize this. So he went to Brazil for a while. He moved his family to Brazil.
That's right.
And then he came back, and then they moved to San Francisco, and then he's leading this church in San Francisco. And when he came back, somebody that knew him his whole life saw him when he came back. He's like, "Hey, like, what's the deal with this? Why do you have on like hair slicked back, glasses on?" It's like he's like, "Hey, you got to look the part to be the part." And he had bodyguards on both sides, and so at that point he was on another level. He's like he said, no, I think his exact quote was, "When you're at the top, you got to be the part, or at least look the part."
Dang, dude.
Yeah. So he really viewed himself like, I'm at the top. Like, imagine your pastor, whoever I'm at the top. He's already thinking like that. Like, I'm the man. Well, I'm sorry. The moment I see my pastor with shades on at 8 in the morning, it's probably calling quits on that one, bro. This man's heavily medicated right now. I mean, he's got to be, right? Why are you wearing shades on, bro? Looking like Deion Sanders post game right now, bro. Come on.
He takes them off. What's up, guys? Everyone's just.
Yeah, he's just
he's just wired, dude.
Wired, bro. Oh, he's like in a constant state of 80 milligrams of Adderall, just constantly flowing through his veins.
I mean,
yeah.
So, and that was one side to it, man. The drugs was one side to it. He had extramarital affairs. He was sleeping with, having sexual encounters with men and women, young men and women
in the church.
He's just a bastard, dude.
Yeah. But the thing is, he was like, imagine this is like he's taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
Because imagine this is like, you're a susceptible person, like in terms of you're very impressionable, you're looking for a home, you're looking for acceptance, and you finally get that. It's wonderful. It's like utopia, and everybody's accepting, everybody's loving. And the guy who's bringing you all that, who's taking care of you, who's feeding you, he's telling you he wants you to do some things that are not quite godlike, and he kind of took advantage of some people that way. And as a lot of people that are, I don't know what YouTube allows us to say, but like a lot of people that are those type of people do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of sickening, but he was doing that, and he had people convinced that he could do miracles, and that he was basically kind of God he was a Messiah.
Straight up.
He was a Messiah of the people's temple. And I don't know where all of our viewers stand on what they believe. Listen, we're deconstructed, where we take something and we are going to dissect it, rip it apart, and give you the facts, and just let you know what we think about it. Not necessarily to deconstruct it. And I heard somebody talking about this. Like, apparently, deconstructed has a bad phrase to be in the Christian community, because you deconstruct it, but then you leave it deconstructed. Our point on it is, we're going to deconstruct it, tear it apart, and then just tell you what we think about it based off the evidence after we deconstruct it and show everything to you.
No, we are on the search for truth. That's what we're trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. Just find the truth of these situations here. And the truth is, something was horribly wrong with him. It very well could be a spiritual thing.
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, I think if you believe in that stuff, you have to consider that it most likely there was a part that was played with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will say this. He was married, right? I think the whole time.
Yes.
But he just...
To the very end, his wife was there. Yep.
Yeah. And so, bro, he was unfaithful. He was an addict. He was everything outside the pulpit that you didn't want in a man. And people knew, but they excused it.
Which led to a lot of scrutiny from the media in San Francisco and California.
Were they like, y'all ignored it? basically.
Well, I mean, you got to think. Why did they go to Guyana?
Oh, here we go.
So they were getting scrutinized about where their finances were going, how he was conducting himself, what he was saying about himself, how he was treating the members, abuse. He was getting scrutinized about all this stuff, and so then at that point he convinced the true people of the People's Temple. Well, guys, I'll give y'all. Let's get away from the evil media and the evil America and the evil policies and the racial segregation and all this stuff. Let's get away from that and create our own perfect society.
Here we
That's
go.
how it started.
And so now you introduce the idea of utopia. Um, and so he moves 1,000 people, I think, around 1,000,
About 1,000.
or 1,000 go with him
Mhm.
to Guyana.
Mhm.
And this is where it gets really dark. He creates a city.
Basically. So he leased a bunch of land down there, and actually, so it's, I believe it's called Jamestown.
Jonestown.
Well, no. But so up top is actually called Jamestown, like an out. There's actual town there, but then remote. He named it Jonestown after himself. Basically, there's a large town, well above that he leased the land from, and it was remotely, like I'm talking miles and miles and miles into a jungle. So if you wanted to get away, you couldn't. You're miles and miles into the jungle. So he brought all them out there and created their own civilization, which they named Jonestown.
So we have Jonestown.
And that's how Jonestown was created. Yeah. And they literally flew out there, and the goal was to create a utopian, socialistic, truly socialistic utopia society.
Jonestown, man, one of the most dark places created by man. Would you say?
In human recorded history, yes. I mean, I think it would have to be.
So dark.
In terms of what we have recorded in history, yes, I'm sure there's a bunch of other places that have not been.
Jim Jones, when he brought these people down there was, as they built the city, he got complaints, especially from some of the black people. And he said to them, I know it's tough down here, but would you rather go back to America where it's worse for you?
Why did he get complaints from the black people?
I mean, well, just because it was tough. Building that city was a tough thing to do. And there's we need water. We need food. Like, we need resources.
They got down there and they didn't have the resources they needed. They were malnourished and
sick.
They were actually beaten. They were abused, emotionally and physically.
He was just like, well, you could go back to the worst place. You could go back to the United States.
You can go back to the evil United States, but that's what we came down here for, to get away from.
That's how twisted he had them mentally.
Yeah.
Like think about how much he had them just in the palm of his hand.
Yeah, 100%. But the moment he got down there, and they got down there, so imagine there's about 1,000 people down there in his control. They're all out in the middle of nowhere, and they all went there off good intentions because they believed that there's going to be this peaceful utopia, a very socialism to its roots will be in the way that is advertised to the people that are unknown to its evils. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be wonderful. Everybody's going to have equally. There's going to be no power struggle because realistically, the manipulation is there's going to be no power struggle. But because he is the true power, he's going to be the one pulling all the strings. He's going to have all the power. But there's going to be no power struggle. They're going to all enjoy their life, and it's going to be wonderful. But the reality is that actually, when they got down there and they were outside of United States jurisdiction, they're in their own private sector of land. No rules apply. At that point, now Jim Jones can let what has already been progressing into true evil can now be fully overcome by the nature of who he is becoming. And he can allow himself to run completely amok in the society because there's nobody to stop him. There's no restriction. There's no accountability. There's nobody there really to keep him trained. And at that time, you have to think a lot of the people going with him were very think of everybody there, and think of if there's anybody that will just go and move to Guyana to start a socialistic society with one man leading them. Most of you aren't going to know anybody and if you do know somebody, they're probably like, that person's a little bit out there. Well, the people that went out there were kind of a little bit crazy too. They were a little bit crazy, and a few of them were zealous about the movement. They were zealous about what was going on, the same way Jim Jones was.
Recruiting.
And so those people were the ones implementing and maintaining the power because they were zealous about what was going on. They were already crazy just as much as Jim Jones was.
That's right.
So they were the ones holding it down and implementing a lot of the rules and kind of making it to where now you're kind of in like a prison, much not really a utopia, and you didn't even know it. And you don't know how you got there, and you can't leave. You can't get out.
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah. And do you want to take it from there on the rest of it escalates?
Oh yeah, I mean, so Jim Jones says that he dreams of seeing a world where all races are equal. Like, you make a good point. It's funny, man. It's just as humans, you go somewhere thinking it's gonna be better. In reality, it's a prison in itself.
Grass ain't always greener.
Hey, that goes for relationships, jobs, anything in life. We have to remember. This is why, especially when you're younger, when you're in your 20s and 30s, I feel like for us, like, we have to constantly self reflect.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't, you could very well get caught in a situation over time that you should not be in. But you justify it, right? And you begin to believe your own lies.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's kind of where all these people found themselves.
So this is where it gets a little tough. They're all down there slaving away, literally, to Jim Jones. They would have worship meetings. They'd have sessions where they all meet together.
Some of them were like, he would ring this bell and they would have to wake up like 3 a.m. He would just go out there and like preach to them like heavy for like 3 hours.
And he'd be like high on all. I mean,
high on whatever, bringing them out there. And then he would literally like do, he'd bring them out there, wake them up 3 a.m, preach to them. And then he would start planting the seed of drinking a poison to see if they would do it. And then he would regress and they wouldn't end up doing it. But at that time, he was really trying to gauge the room and see like how much of how vast would they follow him? How much would they do? And he starts planting the seed. It's kind of like almost like symbolism of, if you've ever read the story of Abraham and Isaac in the Bible, of like when God tells Abraham to bring his son Isaac to the top and to kill his son. And then God's like, no, I'm not, don't kill your son. And then there's like a ram in the bushes and they kill the ram as a sacrifice. But like God just really wanted to see if Abraham would do it, right? I almost think, because he knew that story. I almost think if he took that page and was like, I'm going to do it. And then that way they'll be like, oh, well, I didn't have them. He'll be like, well, he didn't have us drink juice. I trust him more now. Ooh. I trust him more so now. The same way Abraham trusted God more. I wonder if he even took a page out of that book and manipulated it.
That's a great
and was like,
point.
you know what? Now they trust me more. I know for a fact if I ask them to do it, they'll do it because they trust that I have the best interest for them in my heart.
We don't know for sure, but I would like almost put money that he used that passage.
Yeah.
Because it fits so well.
It fits so well.
Oh, dude. So he had him on a crazy schedule, a crazy routine. He would tell people, he would say things such as, well, yeah, this was the paradise, but there's a greater paradise awaiting.
Yeah.
And he would put a poll out. What do you think we should do? We should kill ourselves? We should run? We should fight back? What do y'all think we should do? And his top dogs were even like, yeah, I mean, I guess we got to drink,
Yeah. Well, imagine your sister or your brother, or your mom or your dad, cousin, best friend, went over there. Oh, there's no phone. You can't get access to them. You have no idea if they're alive, if they're okay. You don't know. You don't trust this guy. They just moved across the world to go follow, in your eyes, some cult leader, right? Mm. Some immoral cult leader that they just can't see outside of the cult to even realize what's going on. So you're worried about them now. Well, and that's essentially what happened when the congressman, do you remember this? The congressman had him put together some of the family and relatives, and they flew down to Jonestown to go see like how they were being treated.
U.S. government got involved.
Yeah. And so basically they go over there, and the idea was that they're going to go there, and if anybody wanted to come back home, they were going to bring them home. And that was the idea of it. If anybody want to come back home, we're going to bring them home, but we're also going to see like how people are being treated down here. If this is humane, like if it's okay if it's everything they said it was going to be, we're going to do all that. And then what happened when they got there?
Well, okay, before we even get to that, let's back up real quick. So if you were someone in Jonestown and you realize a few days in, oh my gosh, like I really made a mistake coming down here.
Bad.
What do? You run to the jungle?
No, you'll die in the jungle.
You got panthers down there.
You have
snakes.
Literally your only refuge is having somebody come in and check on you, similar to the family and congressman that came down there.
So you would just play long game, like you kind of just
you
play
have
hard.
to, dude. Do you understand how remote this jungle was?
Yeah, dude.
They were out in the middle of nowhere.
Whew.
Nowhere. There's no running away. Wildlife will eat you if you go in the jungle.
Dude, that's
you're
hell
done.
on earth.
You're done. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
You can't do anything.
You can't do anything. No. Dang. You're completely lost out there. Like there's nowhere you can go. Your only refuge is if somebody comes to save you. To be honest with you, because also you don't know which way to go. You don't know where to go. Imagine you run away and then you come across another remote tribe that they've never even seen white people, and you're just floating around out there, and they think they never seen anybody other than their ethnicity before. They might think you're possessed or a demon and kill you.
Well, that's if you're a white person. Imagine you're a minority run through.
Well, no, anybody different than what they've seen. You're rolling the dice that you're coming across a native tribe, or you're coming across animals or something that would eat you. The reason I say a native tribe is they don't do things the same. Like some native tribes do not do things the same way we do. It may be a cannibalistic native tribe if you're out in the middle of the jungle. Like, you know about some of these tribes out in the middle of the Amazon? Exactly. So even if they see a black person, they see anybody that looks different than them that they've maybe never seen before because they're out in a remote jungle their whole life, that might spook them.
Oh, you're getting
they don't know about any. They don't know if they're out there. So I'm just saying that's one possibility. You could get eaten by a panther. You could get eaten, a snake. Something could bite you and you could die. So no, you're going to stay where it is because it's better than the alternative.
Oh, you're getting speared. You're getting cooked, literally.
Yeah,
like they might kill you and cook you.
So it's better than alternative. You stay there.
Yeah,
you stay with them.
I mean, if me and you are running through, they see some white dude and some Asian guy running through the woods.
Matter of fact, you may live. They probably think I have you captive.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, and they get me.
Jimmy, hate to say it, but
and Dave's probably, man, let's get this guy. Hey, man, he was asking for it. He was asking for it.
Ain't gonna lie, I'm about to play into that one.
I ain't gonna lie, man. Yeah, it was only a matter of time. Yeah, he had me against my will.
I mean, because I kind of look like him a little bit.
Yeah,
I kind of look like him. So, yeah, if you're white or black, I mean, you're screwed.
Yeah, because I mean, they haven't seen either of those tones, most likely.
Both of those tones are like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that sounds like crazy that you or I would say that, but seriously, think about the fact of like, what you don't know, you don't know. So like, if you are a native tribe out in the middle of like nowhere, you're gonna be kind of like, oh, dude, to a lot of different things. But like, I've heard a story of, not to go on too much of a tangent here, but I've heard a story of a native tribe, a missionary going to see a native tribe, and they were supposed to be a very dangerous native tribe in the Amazon, and he like kind of befriended them and was cool. They were cool with him. He visited them twice, and then one day he wanted to come back before Christmas, and he showed him a picture of his family, and they thought the picture was witchcraft, so they killed him. They killed him.
Oh my god!
Yeah, they killed him on the spot because they thought the picture, they've never seen a picture before.
Yeah.
So you see it like that. So long story short, congressman comes there, families come, and basically there's a few people that want to leave. And the congressman said, whoever wants to go, we're bringing them. Okay. And at that time, they came to Jim Jones and said, we're leaving. And Jim Jones actually let some of them go. Now, one of the guys, he was scared for his own life. Him and a couple other people plotted. And he was like, I want to get out of here. And this is a terrible story. But there was a guy in Jonestown. He wanted to go. His son was there too. Okay. And he wanted to go. He orchestrated with a couple other people. They wrote a note and tried to put it in the congressman's pocket. Well, they didn't put it in the congressman's pocket because they were just going to gradually like put it in the pocket when nobody was paying attention. Well, they didn't put it in the right pocket, and they knew that if they put it in the wrong pocket, they could get killed. Fortunately, they put it into a pocket of one of the media people that were there. So they saw the note, and they were like, okay, there's people in here that don't want to be here, basically. We need to get some of these people out. And so then that's when they started getting these people out. The reason I say that guy's story, though, is he left his son there. He left and thought it would be better for his son to stay there.
What?
He left and thought
Why?
it would be better for his son to stay there. So
What?
Yes. So congressman's over there. He gets all these people to leave. The congressman was going to stay and look for what they called any defectors, anybody else that maybe wanted to go or that was like causing a red flag or anything like that. He was going to stay and do that. Somebody pulled a knife on the congressman and spooked him, and he was like, "All right, I'm not staying here anymore. I'm dipping." And so when he dipped, they were going towards the plane, and at that point in time, they went after that. Jim Jones changed his mind. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
He changed his mind before the plane went off. They came over there with guns and started shooting up everybody. And Dave, from that point on, I'm gonna let you take it from here. But that's when the absolute chaos struck.
So they killed everybody. Was it 19 or no?
Not the people that were leaving. They killed everybody.
So 19 came down on the plane, right?
They did.
30 something tried to go on.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm sorry. They did not kill everybody because the guy whose son, he left his son, he lived.
He was like one of two that were injured.
He got injured, but yeah, he lived.
Yes, I think two or
he
three.
woke up to rescue.
Hey, I don't know what you wrote. The minute I see people start falling and bullets clanking against that, yeah, 100%.
Grabbing like people's blood from beside me.
Absolutely, just subtly, just
bro.
I mean, I'm
for
getting,
sure.
I'm getting,
and not to get into too. That's how a lot of children survive this thing, by the way. But we'll get onto that soon.
Good for them. I'd be in the most distorted position I could put myself in. Just I'd be sitting there for
sure.
I mean, I'll sit there for a day.
I think I was survived strictly off of that because the moment people start getting shot, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, seriously.
It's just so fun. I'm doing the same thing, bro.
Yeah.
The first person I see going down,
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Until you're laying on the ground faking it and you hear somebody yell, "All right, now do something crazy to all the people to make sure that." Oh, shoot. oh crap.
Our goofy asses would like our mouths would be open for some reason. Just because we're idiots. That's when you gotta be like,
like, I'm out.
Make sure they're dead if you know what I mean.
Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, make sure they're dead. Oh shoot.
Yeah, it's time to go.
Yeah. Do something crazy.
Yeah. Do something crazy to make sure they're all finished. Like, oh shoot. They're about to do something crazy to me. I'm gonna be squirming. So basically when that happens, Jim Jones calls everybody and he gives a final sermon. And he basically the idea of the sermon is finished. It's done. Basically the other people ruined it for us. They ruined it. They've killed the congressmen. They've killed the people that came, and they've ruined it for us. Now America doesn't want you. Guyana doesn't want us, and it's over. You have no hope anymore. All we can do now is finish the job, and all we can do now is go somewhere else. You don't want to be in this world anymore. You don't want to be a part of this anymore. Let's go. Let's be done with it. Let's be done with this whole thing, and let's just go out in peace.
You guys have heard the term "drink the Kool-Aid" or "don't drink the Kool-Aid," or he drank the Kool-Aid.
He drank the Kool-Aid. Where it came from?
This is it. It started that term because what he had them drink was black cyanide, which stops the heart, kills the body within, I think, immediately.
Like not instantly, but like
within minutes.
It's pretty quick.
It's a quick death.
Yeah.
900 people died. They drank cyanide. What cyanide does to the human body as well, depending on kind of your diet and how your body, it can distort the human body. So whenever later on when they came back and found people, a lot of faces were distorted, like gruesome, and it horrible. So anyways, so Jim Jones basically gives a final speech, like Jimmy said, and they all drink it, except I'll let you take this part.
Well,
the children.
There's kind of more to that because they actually gave it to the children first.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
That's actually a good point. Yeah,
they gave it to the children first, and
what was the reason for that?
I don't fully know. But they gave it to the children first. And matter of fact,
Dang.
from my understanding, Jim Jones' wife was fighting it the whole time.
That's right.
For the children to be taking it. And you have to think there's some people there that were like, no, we're not doing this. And until the very last child had their drink, she wouldn't do anything. She finally took hers and gave up.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
But basically, yeah, they gave it to the children first, and everybody just went around. They made this huge thing Kool-Aid, and they put it like shots in their mouth to take it. And kids, some of them had no clue what they were drinking. Some of them didn't want to drink it. They knew something was up, and they were like, no, and they forced it into their mouth and forced them to drink it. And yeah, over 300 kids. It was over 300 kids that drank it.
You said some lived though.
Some pretended to. I don't know how this happened, but whether I guess they put it in their mouth, and I don't know how they did it. But some of the kids basically pretended to drink it, pretended to play dead, and survived that way.
Smart kids.
It wasn't many of them, but there was some that happened. So I think the total number of casualties was 918, and basically everybody took it. So they would basically just grab their potion, go to a peaceful spot, and just wait. And the idea was that Jim Jones really convinced them that they had no hope and that they were going to have peace on the other side. Like, don't you finally want to be done and just have peace of this? Now, the crazy part about this was that a lot of what they were doing was forced. Okay.
Sure.
So you saw a lot of fighting and scrambling, signs of people scrambling, and even getting finished off with like weapons, basically getting finished off with weapons. Some people, just to make sure they were done, I guess. And basically, I think Jim Jones saw, he watched everybody do it. And I think he saw that it was much more painful than he thought it was. He didn't do it. He died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Because, like you said, it was not an easy thing to take. I mean, it was probably not...
Black cyanide?
I mean, this is something that's not... I mean, it's just
disgusting.
I mean, just crazy that like, oh man, it's crazy.
Probably the worst thing taste-wise you could ever...
But forget the taste. I mean, what it does to you while you're dying, it's not a peaceful death. And I think he saw that, and he's such a coward that he's like, well, I'm not doing that. Now, there's a lot of conspiracies about that part of it.
Yeah, there is.
Because there's a ton, and we can get into conspiracies all day. Yeah. But the moral of the story is he didn't end up actually taking it.
He did not.
He died a different way.
Literally a coward of all cowards.
Mm-hmm.
He shot himself. No, or did he have somebody shoot him? I can't remember.
I think he had somebody shoot him.
Yeah.
That's where it gets a little iffy. Ooh. Because there's a lot of conspiracies. I mean, we're talking about some people believe what the CIA came in and did all this. Some people believe there's just a lot that's going on. They believe somebody else just shot him and he was actually trying to get away. I mean, there's a ton of different conspiracies that we can get into. Matter of fact, if y'all want us to do one just off the conspiracies off this one, we can do that too. But there's a ton of conspiracies about it. But yeah, long story short, he got shot, and that's how he passed.
So confirmed he did die. It's kind of like the Hitler thing. How did he die? What were the intentions? No one really knows.
No one knows. That's what makes it tough.
That's what makes it tough.
Hitler died the same way. Somebody shot him.
Bro, isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah.
So there are images, viewer discretion, but you can actually go look up images of the deaths. You can go find his bodies laying on each other. Just bodies upon bodies upon bodies. When the U.S. government then shows up later, it's kind of like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah.
Because there's so many unknowns and so many unanswered questions to this day.
Yeah.
Some did survive. I think 2 people did survive. They crawled into the jungle, though.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a couple survivors.
His sons played for the Guyana national basketball.
Well, that was actually one of the parts that I was mentioning. So they actually convinced Jim Jones, before the congressman came, to let them play on a basketball team and go play the Guyana basketball team, which how they're competing with the Guyana basketball. Either they sucked or...
Oh, they sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, his son's like 5'10".
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so basically they convinced them to go over into I believe it's called Jamestown, up
The
north,
next
up
town.
north a little bit.
Right.
And so whenever they went up there and like played with them, they actually were able to be kind of freed because I think they were completely out of the situation completely.
You think they knew?
Yeah,
And they're like, screw this, man.
yeah. Well, I think the son, when he said he hugged his mom goodbye to go play in that tournament, he was like, he knew it was kind of like the last.
That was
For
it.
some reason, he knew it was like the last time he saw her.
Imagine you're in the game, you're running off the screen, you shoot a shot, you get packed or airball, but in the back of your mind, you're like, thank God.
Oh my God.
Thank God.
Thank
The coach is like, you suck. Get on the bench. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
Whatever you need, coach.
Oh,
As long as we ain't going back to Jonestown within the next 24 hours, we good.
Yeah. Coach, what you need?
Yeah.
I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a team player.
Yeah, I'm a team player.
I'm a team player. Whatever you need, a Swiss Army knife. I'm a Swiss Army knife.
I mean, you got at that point, you got to be the Draymond Green of your team.
Yeah.
You got to do whatever necessary.
You need to knock a guy out. Go. I mean, whatever they need, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm there for the long haul, literally. The long haul. Yeah.
Hey, when we play in the U.S., so I'm not coming back.
Yeah. First of all, let me ask you a question. If you, as a man, don't feel like you want to be in a certain place and you feel scared for your life, like if somebody finds out that you're trying to leave, you'll get killed, why would you want to leave your son there?
I'll never understand it, but I just know in the situation, everything is. I'll say this: everything is trying to kill you. It's so bizarre. Who knows what you're going through mentally? I'm not making excuses.
My number one goal would be getting my son out before anything else.
The kids have to get
But this guy was like so lost in the sauce mentally that he like was for some reason thought his son was better off there.
That's just, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
he knew he had to get out, but
and you know what? He convinced him. He was like, this is still better in America because people are so racist in America, blah blah, this and that. That he like wagered with himself mentally that there with Jim Jones in a socialistic environment that his son would be better off, even though he didn't want to be there.
That's crazy, bro.
Even though he didn't want to be there. Yeah, that's nuts. That's one of the craziest stories I've heard about that. But so yeah, that's the story of Jonestown and Jim Jones. If you did not know it, now Dave, we've been kind of asking some questions along the way. My question is this to you: does a guy like that, and this kind of goes back to an original question that I asked earlier, does a guy like that have this whole thing premeditated? Does he genuinely think that from the beginning to the end, I'm going to have people do this act at the end? Or does it just get to a level of progression to where it goes to that state? And if so, this is kind of a loaded question. If so, what did he gain out of that last act? What was that? What kind of power trip was that?
I think he died knowing he was in control.
Yes.
He saw the dead bodies, he said.
I'd have to agree.
That was his nirvana.
He had to wait until he saw every single one drop. And then he went somehow. Maybe he didn't even want to go. Maybe somebody else finished him.
I think, yeah.
We don't know, but like,
we don't know.
So I guess he wanted to even have control of every aspect of all of it to the point of the end. He wanted to have control, and he was too cowardly to do the end by himself. I think he wanted people to go out with him.
Exactly. When he saw all those corpses, and he saw that they were that devoted to him, this goes all the way back to his childhood. He finally got the attention that he never got, basically, like to a level, because he was obsessed with death as a child, just thinking about it.
Why?
Funerals, something about it intrigued him, whether it was a passage to the next life or the ending of this horrible one. He was obsessed with it, and so to see other people die for him, that was the ultimate victory.
Wow.
And he had to go out. So I think he had to go out that way.
Wow.
He was that much of a megalomaniac. So was it premeditated? Yes and no. I think in the back of his mind, he loved the idea of it, and he was willing to do it, obviously.
But what about the 918 people? Obviously, we know every one of them did not take it under their own will, but a lot of them did. Why? What did they What do you think they genuinely got out of that? Why did they genuinely believe that was the best move?
I mean, they were in it. They believed what he was preaching, which is there's a paradise waiting for us into death.
Which ironically said there was a paradise waiting in Guyana.
Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, But he says there's a greater paradise, right? God is a socialist kind of deal.
I'm not gonna lie. If he would have convinced me that the first paradise was gonna be paradise, and then I would have probably been like, all right, this paradise is pretty bad. I can't imagine what the next one's about to be.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm good on that.
Yeah. Does a guy on a team have any spots on their basketball team? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, how do you convince people to do it? I just think they were lost, man. They were just searching, and he was there. But like, how do people get convinced all the time of crazy stuff?
Yeah, but that's like the ultimate.
That's the next level.
Like that's the ultimate like degree of like to the point of you're willing to, number one, move across country, and then you're willing to like do all these things for this one man, and then you're willing to take your own life for this one man over the false allegations that there's going to be something better on the next life. And the thing is, at that point, he wasn't preaching the Bible. He wasn't preaching anything. He was preaching himself. So they really had all their faith and trust. Those people had all their faith and trust in this one man who literally had no foundation to say what he was even saying. He had no authority.
I think when human beings are lost, which we all can be, we can all get to this level in life. One bad thing happens after the other, and you begin to blame society and your environment, and you try your best, and nothing works out in life. I think every human being is susceptible to following to that level. I really do.
Really?
I think it's easy to look at them and say, how could they drink cyanide and follow this maniac? But it's like, if you grow up a certain way in a certain time period, and you listen to certain messages, I think every human is susceptible to being that naive. Every single one.
Dang.
That's why you got to self-reflect, man. That's why you got to.
That's crazy.
I really believe it. Now, this is why you got to be careful, man. In today's age with the media, think about the messages the media are telling people.
Yeah.
Minorities, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If you truly fall on one side and believe one person, everything they say,
ooh, you're in trouble.
You're Republican or Democrat.
Anybody,
you're going to be in trouble. I'll say this: even if the congressman never came down there, he was gonna have them drink cyanide eventually. That's what I'm saying. That's what I think.
It's nuts.
It could be years or decades later, right? I think eventually that was going to happen.
Yeah, that was the end goal. He was toying with it too much.
The end goal was death.
He was planting the seed like very often with that.
Isn't that crazy? Bro, the end goal was death for him.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And you could track it back to his childhood. You could I mean, it's just there's so many unknown factors for what could have gone right and what could have gone wrong. But I think it goes back to what we're saying. When he saw his opportunity for power and control, he took it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look back.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, final thoughts on Jonestown?
People are just out for their own like selfish ambition, and to a degree I think he was too, although it may have started in like a lot of good desires, and maybe he genuinely wanted to make progress in like integration and different things like that. At the end of the day, the moment he got that power, that's all that mattered.
That's all mattered.
And he got suffocated with the need for that power more so to where you can argue whether he started as corrupted or not, but like he eventually became like something extremely evil, because power doesn't corrupt, but it just shows our corruption.
Yeah.
And in this case, he got too much power than he should have ever had, and it showed his corruption that he probably had within him the whole time.
Ooh. Yeah, as a lot of us do. I mean, we've talked before about what if suddenly you wake up tomorrow and you could get whatever you wanted in your life.
Yeah.
What would happen?
Yeah. It's crazy because this whole story is about ego and power. That's really it.
That's it.
Like to the point of like their death. Like he wanted to be control over every aspect of their life and death.
Dang. Life and death.
It's crazy.
The story of Jonestown. And
Nuts.
The story of Jim Jones.
Wow. Be
vigilant, people. Be vigilant. This is the Deconstructed Show. And we're going to bring you all types of good stuff like this. So any final words?
Episode 2 next week. Waco?
Oh, yeah.
What do we have next week?
Waco. Episode 2, Waco.
Episode 2 next week, Waco.
And that one is crazy because you could see either side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that one's like going to be very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. That one's gonna be interesting.
So guys, keep up with us, subscribe, and we appreciate y'all.
Yeah.